welcome to a new edition of Eclecticka. I am Seven. Today we have CC. We also have Charles and also our man Drew. How you guys doing today?
Very
Good.
well.
Good, how are you?
Drew, my man, what do we got going on? Kicking out the
You tell
beast?
me, man. There's some stuff that went down this weekend that I saw when it came to Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It was my movie day.
Okay.
Went Friday to go see it to a full house. And I gotta say, it was more than most of it was rad. The visuals were stunning. They really captured the time period which it takes place, because those who don't know, first off, how do you not know what the hell Harry Potter is?
Right.
Second of all, this is in effect prequel to the Harry Potter book. So this happens in like the 1920s, and this predates everything that you know about Harry Potter. Just about. They do go into like the history and stuff like that, but
Okay.
Newt Scamander, he's the fellow who in the Harry Potter world creates this book, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. He is I guess he's like a zoologist / anthropologist. He has like a really mixed bag of skill sets, but his specialty is basically finding and saving, preserving endangered animals that are in the magic world. So you got like these giant luminous rhinoceros, hippopotamus, chimera things, and he's got these other creatures. Some of the sequences in this, I gotta say, were like, if I'd been a kid watching them, I'd have lost my little damn mind, because he has this. If you look in the trailer, like he has this suitcase, right? It opens up, and it's like it leads to it's like a dimension within a dimension. He goes into it, and it's this giant preserve that he has all these like weird, fantastical creatures in it. And it was like mind blowing watching him just go through like this little zoo essentially that he has. You see all these cool, like weird looking creatures.
A zoo case, huh?
Yeah, it was really great. And I also like how they captured the time period, because again, it's in the 20s. So they have speakeasies that are run by magic folk. So you'll have like singers. I don't know if you can remember the picture, Seven, but you have like the singer who's like, I think she's a troll or goblin or something like that. Mm-hmm. But as she's singing, she like manifests these like different images with the lyrics that she's singing, like through like this weird dusty crap. It was really good, really good. Awesome. And then there are the parts that I wasn't so happy about when it came to the dialogue. The dialogue feels extremely stilted and like slow. Like there's like these big pauses between everything that everyone says. And I'm sitting up there, I don't know if this is like ADD or what, but I'm sitting there, I'm like watching people have this conversation. I'm just like, wrap it up, speed up, dude. Come on, give a response.
Yeah.
Damn. I can see Newt being like that because he's very socially awkward. And like Eddie Redmayne he seems like a really weird kind of like geeky dude where he'll look at you, he won't say anything, and then he'll give an answer. But everyone does that in the movie, and it's so irritating. So irritating. And side note, there's two characters in the movie. There's Tina and Queenie Goldstein. Tina's like an Auror, or an ex-Auror. She's like, that's in the magic world. They're known as like the cops, you know? Mm-hmm. She's all right. She does whatever she does. Queenie, though, all right. Queenie Goldstein, there's fantasy, there's suspension of disbelief, and then there's get the hell out of my face, because this girl is entirely too bad. Like, she can read minds, right? She's of the magic folk. She's sweet. She's considerate. The chick can burn in the kitchen magically. And I'm just like, there's no way in hell she can get out of here with that. I can buy a local Mora. I can buy all that other stuff, but you're unrealistically awesome. But overall, I do got to say there's a pretty sizable twist that comes towards the end when it comes to who the villain is in the movie. Mm-hmm. It just struck me as funny. It was comedic. Because, like, I'm not going to spoil it. When you watch the movie, Charles, if you get around to watching Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, when you get to that part towards the end, you're going to know exactly what the hell I'm talking about. You need to text me and be like, yeah.
It's not like a Roger Rabbit moment, is it?
Kind of.
You know what I mean? We find out.
It's a little bit, just because like you know who the villain is from the jump. But they go that extra mile to make the real villain just stand out, and I'm just like, it's kind of cartoony. All right, I see it. It was like a Scooby-Doo moment.
You know
And
what?
I'm
We
just
need
like-
to come up with a
meddling kids.
Eclecticka, what's it called? Rating system. So what would it be? 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5, and
Oh, for the movies, I typically go on like a 0 to 10 thing. I'd give this a solid 7, 7.5.
Not
It
bad.
was good. It was really enjoyable. They're definitely trying to set you up for like a series of films with this. You can tell they introduce all these little yarns that they kind of just gloss over, and just the end alone, it's pure sequel bait. They don't even need to. It's funny because everybody in the theater, they're like doing the thing now where they're all waiting for the post-credit scene.
Right.
Marvel. So I'm like, guys, they gave you your little teaser for the next film at the end of the movie, so you're fine. You're good. We can leave now. Let's go. But overall, it was enjoyable. There are parts of it that more of it I really enjoyed than what I didn't. I felt that the dialogue could have been a little more snappy. Because the Harry Potter movies, they had really good dialogue. Like, and the characters kind of just bounced off of each other.
Right.
And you had this kind of rapid fire dialogue. It wasn't there with this one. It felt slow for a Harry Potter movie.
Like they're reading off a script or thinking to say their next line or something like that. That's
Everyone has this pause before they talk, and I'm just like,
I feel like that's like this over dramatization and over romanticizing of the past. Like, especially when you have movies that are dealing with eras like the 1920s, they always seem to try to like over romanticize it. Like, no, they were talking about the same stuff that we were talking about, just in different contexts.
yeah.
In addition to that, the one thing that I did find particularly great, I'm glad you brought that up, Shauna, because there's one character in the movie. Seven, do you see the picture, the really pretty light-skinned lady with the weird whitish sideburns, the headdress thing?
yes, yep.
That is President, please let me remember her name. That is President, what's the title? I totally forgot her name already.
Van Buren?
No. She is the president of the American division of the wizarding community. I totally can't remember what her name is. She was probably the most interesting character. You see her fair enough throughout the film, but when she's there, something about her, she has that it factor. Instantly, you take magic more seriously. It's so weird. She's just like this authoritative, but really almost like motherly figure. She's the mom that has asked you several times to clean up your room, and you haven't done it yet. So when she walks in, she has this look. I'm just like, oh, damn, I forgot to clean up. So
Is she like more or less a Viola Davis type of?
She's like, she reminds me a lot of Viola Davis and Nona Gay. She's like a weird combo of her. She was really cool. She was one of my favorite characters, and she's like the leader essentially of the American branch of this big community.
Wow, that's crazy. I can't wait
do
to
her like bidding, I guess you could say.
Right.
But she was so solid and like an intense character. Loved having her around, and in a world where I'm kind of like, this is the 1920s, so things like not slavery, but like racism and like oppression against women still is a thing. And it shows you like the difference because you have this female character who is completely like down for the cause. She's totally capable. She's totally competent. In the 20s, when you know that people of color still were like separating us and giving us like the black only thing. That's really cool and refreshing to see. I like that they were able to kind of just branch past that. J.K. Rowling's always been good for that.
Yes, she has.
Comes to like taking people, like characters of color and people that come from different spectrums of like life and integrating them into. It's always been good for that.
Yeah, she's very well rounded in her writing.
Yeah, I like that.
There's supposedly a video game for Fantastic Beasts now too. It's similar to Pokemon Go, if I'm not mistaken, or at least it's in the.
Because you want to know why? Because Newt Scamander, the main character, is, quote me on this, he is a Pokemon master. When you see him in later parts of the movies, he's throwing like the beast in a little tiny like suitcase thing. He's like letting them loose on people, and they're doing attacks. And I'm like, bruh, this is Pokemon. You want to be the very best like no one ever was, Newt. That's why you got to catch them all. That's why you're out here trying to catch them all. I get it. I understand you, my boy.
That's cool though.
Oh yeah. Yes, that was pretty rad. I like that.
I didn't realize the movie came out, man. And I'm looking at the billboard right in Times Square, and I didn't bother to pay attention to the date, and so.
Well, you know what? Just because this is so centered around historical preference. Cece, and you love history. In fact, you're actually getting another degree in history, right?
Well,
your
this will be
master's.
my first degree in history, but my bachelor's is in sociology, which is very closely tied to history.
So,
Yes.
so what do you feel about sci-fi fantasy films that it's all based in the past? You like it? Don't like it? Anybody that's done it well didn't do it well?
Um, it's funny that you mentioned that because I feel like a lot of times when they do that, that it's really inaccurate, especially from a race relation standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
They to try to romanticize. Again, they try to romanticize the past and create this notion that, oh, all the good things about the past were there and none of the negative things were there. Although I will say there have been a few good ones who have done right by it. Like, well, I would say Idlewild, even though that was more of a musical, but I can't really consider that sci-fi. But like, I think I don't know. I think The Walking Dead actually did a really good job, but it's not based in the past. But when they had like T-Dog, and then when Daryl and his brothers were first introduced, I think they did a very good job of addressing issues that pertain to race relations in the South, especially. But it wasn't necessarily focused on, the past. So I
I'd
can't
say
really...
Walter Mosley is a good one. He's not really sci-fi, but a lot of his work, because he does tons of period pieces, Devil in a Blue Dress, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So his work tends to have a really good, I guess, sense of perspective when it comes to people and how people comport themselves in society, especially like in between like the 20s and the 50s. This guy, I feel like every time I've read one of his books, he nails that era.
Yeah.
And it's like he has these characters that can operate within society in a specific way, characters of color, and then like he gives you both sides of that coin because the character is competent enough to find themselves in these other situations that typically a person, if you're a black detective in Chicago in like the 50s, you're going to have a harder time than, Hercule Poirot from like back in the day. So he has a real good sense of depth and perspective when it came to that. He's not sci-fi. He's a lot more noir.
Yeah, but I also think X did a good job of a bit more so accurately portraying the past, particularly when they go back to the history of Professor X and Magneto and the concentration camps. I think that was a really very well done, and I think they do a good job of making the parallel of how mutants are marginalized versus how people are actually marginalized in real life.
The whole X-Men was like an allegory for race relations and civil rights.
Exactly. Right.
And then it's like, you use that as a baseline, but then all that snowballed when it came to like gender dynamics and feminism and all that stuff. Because you have like different branches of the X-Men where it's Storm leading a team of all females. Yes. Which in itself, it's like people look at that, even from like fans that consider themselves nerds and geeks, they'll still look at that and be kind of like, I don't know about that. But it takes you out of your comfort zone. It like adds a different element to a different layer to it. So
and honestly, pop culture has historically proven to be one of the most effective ways of taking people out of their comfort zone.
Well, do you also think?
Definitely.
That I notice even with like when I go on through history, so well, CC, you would know, Drew. We all know history's twisted like crazy, especially the stuff that you learn in schools anyway. So if you're going to slap them in the face with the truth, they would think you were lying about it anyway. Because it's scary what I look at, what I was taught as a kid to what I know now. I wish I could go back to the schools, man, because most of the stuff I learned was just backwards.
It was garbage. Or like,
it was just straight garbage. But we know why it was done.
Right.
I always make the joke that like I learned more after I got out of high school. I learned the most after I got, and even to a certain degree when I was in between semesters in college where I just wasn't going. I learned just from like random sources through Wikipedia, through going to the library. That's when I felt education, genuine education, like unfiltered, started for me personally.
Yeah, honestly, I had kind of like a bell curve, more or less, because I started in DC public schools, when it was still very much known as Chocolate City. So I got that foundation growing up, where we literally, you would walk down the halls and there was like pictures of Muhammad Ali, Dorothy Height, MLK, all the greats. And then when I got to PG County, once I got to Maryland, it kind of got watered down a little bit. And when I moved to another county in Maryland that is much more affluent, it got watered down even more, especially when I was in the honors classes, right? So it wasn't until I got to college and went to a historically black college on top of that I really kind of felt the same sense of self-determination and pride that I got in elementary school.
See, that's great. I went to Pittsburgh public schools. They didn't teach you a darn thing. It was
it's like Pittsburgh and Philly are like totally different.
It was like they would teach you, I would say, the stamp approval stuff that they're supposed to teach you. You understand what I mean? I'm not even going to get into it right now because I get myself all keyed up and fired up on the show. But no, seriously, they would teach you. I learned the same stuff from like first grade all the way to 12th grade, the same bull crap. That's all I learned. And then when I got into college and I started taking real black history, it shouldn't even be called black history. It should be called history because it's history,
Exactly.
And that's when I started learning. I was like, wow, thank God that my family, because I would always get in arguments in school. They'd be like, well, this is how this one. I'd be like, no, that's not how it happened.
I got trouble.
I was always in trouble, man.
When I was in Catholic school, man, because I went to high school and Catholic school for like the last, I want to say like 2 or 3 years. I was in Long Beach, and you start getting these other outside elements to history that you kind of connect to this other crap that they'd set you up with.
Yep.
Elementary school all the way up until high school. And then you start just kind of like saying, no, it doesn't sound right. And then you expound on that. You add the why. And then the other kids, the thing about it is, the funny thing is this. None of my teachers, at least not when I went to Catholic school, gave me crap about inserting what I'd learned versus what they taught in the textbooks. It was always the other kids that had this singular idea in their heads. Yeah. It's like, it was like fighting people who were part of the program. It's like the Matrix. You're Neo.
Agent Smith running around.
And then you have like a bunch of Agent Smith. So when you sit there and say, dude, if Jesus Christ was an actual dude, you do realize he wouldn't be James, what's the guy's name? That was in the Passion of the Christ?
Oh, Mel Gibson?
No, not Mel Gibson. The other guy.
I don't know. I forgot his name. I know you're talking about.
Jim, he's like, you realize that Jesus Christ is not Jim Caviezel, right? He's not that dude. He's not the blonde-haired, blue-eyed surfer type guy. And the one kid in the back, what? I'm like, yeah, bro.
I know we could talk about one sci-fi movie that was horribly inaccurate, and that's Gods of Egypt.
Well, that movie was doomed when it was in script form.
Everyone,
that made no sense.
That trailer. Just the trailer alone marked its death. That was like the death toll right there. That was a death toll. That was a tolling of death right there for that.
Yeah. And honestly, there's so much miseducation in our education systems that we kind of do have to rely on pop culture.
Oh man, hold on a second. Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. We are.
But my issue with Red Tails is that during the war, you don't. There's the one German like pilot dude who comes across them several times, right?
Yes.
He's like the main villain. I'm like, how likely was that during the war for that to go down? Where you have the words, "Oh, we meet again," between two pilots that you've like never seen each other before. They just seem like, okay, I get that they need a villain, and because we have this Nazi dude here, we're just going to use him. But I just felt it was like a little bit convenient. But Red Tails was a good flick, though. And a lot of people, you're right, Cece, they don't know who the Tuskegee Airmen were. And I'm just like, really? They're pretty monumental. They also had an all-female division. Like I can't remember what their names were, forgive me. But
and most of them were PhDs. Like the overwhelming majority.
If you go back and you look at any war that was fought in the United States, blacks helped them win the wars. They didn't tell you that. They try to think, oh man, they're all slaves. No, they fought in those wars and they helped them
both sides. Yeah, both sides. There were blacks that were on the sides of the Confederacy as well as the North. during the
Yeah, they
Civil
don't,
War,
they
which
don't
is
teach you
trippy.
all that stuff.
You don't hear that, yeah.
Nope.
Of course not.
Yeah, we're all over
Sad,
the place.
man. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man.
interesting to see how that carries over to, because pop culture does try to its best. It'll take liberties because it has to be like exciting and all that good stuff. It takes certain liberties with facts. But I'm noticing now, more so now in the last like 20 years, I want to say, between 10 and 20 years, there are people that are being a lot more bold, I guess, when it comes to their portrayal of, giving just more than the facts,
Yeah.
Like Legends of Tomorrow feels really good for that. Jumping back to the whole romanticizing of a specific era, there's that one episode where Stein, he's one half of Firestorm. He's like an old white dude. He goes back to, I think it was the 50s or the 60s.
50s.
And this dude's like having his nostalgia bomb go off in his face. He loves it. He's like, oh my God, this takes me back to my childhood. This is so great. And then you have segregation, because you have like his other half of him, he's Jax. He's black. He's there. There's people that are giving him gas for going up and talking to this girl, this white girl at the bar. And you have, meanwhile, Sarah Lance. She's bi/lesbian or whatever. She is looking and seeing the messed up dynamics there at this hospital with this other lady who's lesbian, but she has to keep it a secret because they'll fire her if they fire her because she's girls. So you have different eyes from this single era that they aren't afraid to go over. And it's like kind of watered down for TV. You can't scare the shit out of people, so it's like, all right, we got to put it in this way. However, we still want to
watch your mouth.
So, anyways.
But I think, speaking about that, it was easier, and I hate to say that, but it was, even back in the day, it was easier to take and disguise the message in those types of movies without coming out and saying it directly. You weren't slapping people in the face directly, but you were doing it indirectly.
It wasn't busting a roots on you, where it was just unapologetic.
Yeah.
You had to bust the roots.
Well, they did that well with Luke Cage.
I thought Luke Cage is phenomenal.
I said they did that well with Luke Cage, having those PBS moments without overly hitting you in the head. What do you think?
Well, they did hit you over the head, but I gave it a pass, because there were parts of Luke Cage. It was the most subtle parts in the show, I think, had the loudest voice. When you see him like walk with the hoodie. The act of him doing that alone, and you see the bullet holes. Right. And I'm like, that to me is a more powerful image than someone having like a 3 or 4 minute speech about things.
Yeah.
Like, so that hits home for me personally more than anything else in the series.
Yeah, that was.
That made up all the whack fight scenes that we had.
They gotta work the fight scenes.
Oh.
It seems that everybody had issues with the buildup of the characters on Luke Cage. And I think that they're really lucky they're in the Netflix world, because we basically just jumped in and watched all these episodes. So we were able to warm up, because if it was that week by week, I think they would have lost.
They would have lost people, I think. Yeah. Within the first 2 episodes, I think they would have lost a lot of people. And it's funny you bring up Netflix, dude. They're like on it right now, because they're also about to do the series version of a series of Lemony Snicket's, a series of unfortunate events.
Really?
Which I'm low-key, I'm so giddy right now, because I remember reading the book when I was a kid, and I'm just like, yo, this is actually a really messed up, dark story. And then I saw the movie, which I also loved, and then it was like they didn't pick it up for any more. So now that we're getting
Jim Carrey, right? Didn't Jim Carrey play Lemony Snicket?
That was Jim Carrey. Neil, oh my gosh. Neil Patrick Harris. Is that his name? Did I mess up his name already?
Yeah, Doogie Howser.
Yeah, Doogie Howser. He's going to be Olaf. And I'm like,
what?
That'll do it. I'm in. If you told me Lemony Snicket's in the series, I'm already on board. But also I got Barney that's going to be Olaf. I'm like, oh yeah, sign me up. I'm good. Totally hyped for it. Now, that's also a period piece too.
Is it going to be week by week, or is it going to be we're just going to load all the episodes in one shot?
They're going to just give us the thing. I'm pretty sure they're going to give us just the whole thing. That's typically that's how Netflix rolls. That's how they did it with Voltron. Yeah. That's how they with their Marvel stuff. That's how they do it with Narcos. So we're more likely going to get the whole thing.
Netflix they don't have a reason to change fire.
Yeah, they're on fire, man.
Yeah,
they don't have a reason to switch it up. Do it that way. Because I think that also, too, Charles, you introduced a good idea. The notion of introducing it like a whole season in one sitting at one time. you don't run the ratings. First of all, I don't know how ratings on Netflix works anyway, so I may be wrong. But the idea that you're just giving people this one complete season in a serving, it completely bypasses that whole, oh my God, our ratings are going like this. Now they're going like this, like all the other shows on network television.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so people like me that fall off, man. I told you, ADD sets in. If I got to wait a week, I'm good for a little bit. Then I'm just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
show. It actually kind of reminds me of a combination between Gotham and New York Undercover.
I remember that show.
I'm glad you said that. I said that too. I didn't say Gotham, but I said it reminded me of New York Undercover.
It does.
With the club and the music and all that. Yeah. Yes.
New York Undercover, definitely. And yeah, Gotham, it's like, for me, it was a refined version of Gotham, because Gotham, I had to duck out the first season just because of how messy it was. Really messy first season. Luke Cage took that, the parts that you're talking about, Cece, and they just cleaned it up. And then they have commentary like beneath that. So I totally see that comparison. That makes sense. Yeah.
That was the show, New York Undercover, man. I love that show.
Well, didn't the dude die at the end of that one?
The Puerto Rican partner, or the
Puerto Rican dude, the Michael Jackson dude way back in the day.
Oh, you mean like at the end of the series did he die?
In the series, I think his character got killed off, and I remember him because he was in the Beat It video. Way back when he was dancing with the rhinestones, he was doing all the fancy dancing. I'm like, that's the book from New York Undercover.
And hold that thought. We'll be back for next episode, and we'll continue. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, CC. Thank you, Charles. I am Seven, and you'll see more of us. Eclecticka.
Wow.
Bum, bum, bum.
So that's part 1. This is 4